All right. Welcome to Answers to Your Most Important Questions About Life Purpose and What Most People Miss. And this is Philip Montrose with my wonderful wife and partner, Jane.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here.
And we have an action-packed, information-packed, engaging webinar for you coming up here in this next hour or so. And what's crucial to living fully and reaching your potential, which I'm going to figure everyone is interested in? Well, it's your life purpose. So you're in the right place today to go deeper into your life purpose and living a wonderful life filled with profound meaning and contribution. Here's the problem. How do you find it? How do you find your purpose? How do you realize it? Well, the solution is going to be at least in part addressed today with some of the answers we're going to explore from a few decades of experience. Jane and I wrote a book in about 19 years ago called Getting Through to Your Soul. And the subtitle was The 4 Keys to Living Your Divine Purpose. So we've been studying this and exploring this and teaching this and living this for quite a while. And we want to share what we learned with you, so at least a little bit today in the hour we have with you. So stay tuned for the whole thing, because there are a lot of going to be valuable nuggets throughout the time we're with you, the short time we're with you. So the idea is to get more aware of your life, of your potential, of the big picture. And there are different, sometimes we call pieces of the puzzle. So your life is something of a puzzle. And this life purpose part is a higher octave as well. So it's putting the pieces together so you can raise your energy, your vibration to this higher octave. And we're going to share how to go deeper into this subject too, going further training that we offer as well, deeper into life purpose coaching and healing coming up. Jane, you want to give a little brief overview here?
Yeah, it's a really important topic to us. I think, like many people, we reached a point in our lives where we felt like we needed to go on our own path, where really what we were doing, Philip was a teacher, I was an architect, and life just wasn't fulfilling for us. I felt in a way like my soul was dying, it wasn't like any kind of an idea I'd been taught. It was just like, I felt like the life was draining out of me, and something really important had to happen and something major had to change, really, for life to be worth living even. And I know before that time, I was reflecting a little bit on it today, I didn't feel like like my life had any meaning. I didn't feel like I really mattered. I felt like with all the billions of people on the planet and just everything that was going on, that I just I was insignificant. And it was a wonderful journey when Philip and I both realized that we needed to create life on our own terms. And we went out and started trying to figure out, how does that happen? I don't know that the term life purpose came to us at the time. This was several decades ago. I don't know if it was even a term that was out there that much. We just knew that we needed to do something that had meaning for us. And we realize now it was a journey of self-discovery. And it gradually evolved. We were drawn to healing, so we started pursuing a variety of healing techniques, hypnotherapy, NLP, Reiki, just a whole bunch, spiritual healing, quite a few different things over the years. After a while, we got into manifestation, intuitive development, all kinds of different things that came together really to be our mission. And what we realized at a certain point was that our purpose was to create a more love, to help. None of us are alone here. To help to create a more loving world where each individual's gifts are honored and nurtured. So really for us is all about love and about helping people to understand that love is the solution. So that evolved over time, and I think that that's a really good way to understand life purpose, that people think, well, I'm going to figure it out and then I'm going to do it. Well, it's not necessarily that straightforward. It is something that evolves and grows along with you. And in that way, it's really a magical journey. And for us, the results have far exceeded anything we could possibly have imagined. We've had so many opportunities. We started writing books, and um, we developed with teacher Philip being a teacher. It was natural for us to start teaching, so we developed programs in the 1990s that have evolved into now we have a series of home study programs and the comprehensive holistic life coaching and healing program that has just gradually become what it is today over the years. And we're deeply grateful for the journey.
We are, and we have 7 wonderful, very profound, sometimes complex questions that were submitted. There were more, but we wanted to boil it down to what seemed to be the essence. And if you are listening on Facebook or Zoom here, in the chat, in the replies, feel free to ask a question or a comment, and if we can, we'll include that too, because some of these things are interrelated, as you well know. The ideas are subtly interrelated, and we'll kind of put those pieces together for you and put things in perspective, because this is a profound part of your life, and it can be confusing. Sometimes it's actually easier than we make it out to be too, which we want to kind of dismantle a lot of the confusion,
Right.
and make it more understandable too. And of course, ultimately, you're going to live your life purpose too. So let's go into these questions. The first question that we were submitted, or we put it in a certain order that makes some sense, we hope.
Do you want me to read the question for you?
Yeah, go ahead.
When will I know I have identified my soul purpose? Is it when I feel so overwhelmingly filled with knowingness that it cannot be denied? Or do I continue to consider each new opportunity to learn as something that was intended on my path?
Right. So one of the things to be aware of is that life purpose is actually a stage of growth. Now, we have our default purposes, you might say, that you were given. At first it might be just taking care of yourself. I'm going to do a good job of taking care of myself and self-improvement and success, and maybe taking care of a family. And that's good and fine and important, but at a certain point you go to what we're really talking about, that deeper stage of knowing yourself, being aware of yourself, embracing yourself, and expressing yourself. And that really comes in a specific sequence too, through your own spiritual growth, and the life purpose naturally emerges from that. Now, some people maybe are artists or athletes, and they knew from kind of a very, very young age that that's what they wanted to do. But in terms of maturity, and for most people to really get clear on a deeper level, it comes later in life, maybe in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or later. And we'll talk more about different possibilities there.
Right. And it is, I think people make the idea of knowing when you have identified it much more difficult than it is, because following your life purpose, really from our perspective, is just following your heart. Your heart knows why you're here. And it is the thing that I think really transformed our lives personally for the two of us was when we started to develop that connection relationship in our heart, of just actually going into a relaxed state and connecting with the energy there and the messages that were there for us. But it's all out in the open. And it's interesting that everything, the way that I see it now, the whole evolutionary journey, the spiritual journey, is built right into us. Mm-hmm. Everything is within our energy system. There are stages of our development that we go through, and then, as Philip mentioned, life purpose is part of it. You could say it's a more advanced stage. Many people would say their life purpose is having a family and, just very kind of earthly things, which is fine. It might be really a person's purpose. But to have then kind of a higher calling, you might say, one mm-hmm. that has something to do with making a difference in the world, that comes in at that point when you start to think, well, I need to create life on my own terms. I need to really identify who I am. And I think that that's the thing that causes that deep soul searching is who am I?
Right. The who am I?
To realize my purpose, I certainly have to know who I am. And so we go through that stage of really, we call it embracing, of embracing ourselves for the beautiful spiritual beings who we are. Not
Right.
just that we're physical people here who, are wandering around and doing something every day. Or, going through the kind of conventional idea of having a job and, having your retirement and then going on, I guess, cruises after you retire and then it's over. It's having more meaning.
Yeah, and all those things can be useful and valuable and fun too.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that.
And
there's
maybe
nothing wrong, if your profession is also your purpose. If it's a convention, it could be a conventional profession that has deeper meaning for you.
right, and some of the questions coming up here are going to shed some light on everything we say here. Each question sort of reveals a different facet of this multifaceted, profound concept of you and your potential. Without your life purpose, at a certain point, it's almost like living and dying. I mean, like, it's too automatic, it's too limiting, it's too routine. So we have what we call a life purpose formula. Of course, life purpose can't really be put into a formula, but this is a pretty good guideline, a pretty good starting point to understand what we're talking about. And we're not talking about just self-improvement, which is good too, but this is more than self-improvement. This is taking what you've learned, what you've come into life with, quote, your gifts that you've been given, you've developed, and then your skills and interests in this lifetime, and putting them to really a higher use, making yourself as an instrument, as a vehicle for a contribution. So the formula is your skills, your interests, the things that really motivate you. So this is really natural if you think about it. And the other plus for the equation, the formula, is how do you want the world to be a better place? I know that sounds like a big thing, but do you want it to be more peaceful, more creative, more caring? Yes, you want all those things and more collaborative. You take the key words, the key things that come to mind that you want to focus on, and it'll be there. It'll just be there. It's within you. It's part of your dream. It's part of your deeper vision that you uncover. It's there in your soul, waiting to be given birth by your awareness, your focus, your motivation, your maturity, being ready for this. And then it starts to blossom, and we go further into that. Are we kind of ready for maybe the next question, Jane, or you think that covers that?
Fine. They kind of start to blend in together.
Yeah, we can keep going and going on. Okay, so and if there are any questions in the chat room or Facebook, please ask them, and we'll try to address them too. All right, question 2. This was written to us, can I give my heart to it? And we kind of add another question, and do you need to have enough money to be stably financially to start? So, okay, Jane, I'll just turn that one over to you for now.
Okay, and I would say, I think it was clear, can I give my heart to it? I think that was I think some people think that purpose is something like a life task. Like I have to do this thing, but this heavy thing that, to make a difference or whatever, that may not actually be at all exciting to them. But if you understand that it is really something that wells up from your heart, of course your heart is in it. It's the bigger question is, are you in it? And the other part of this question I think is interesting. Do you need to have enough money to be stable financially to start? One thing about the journey, and I think purpose is an integral part of it, is wherever you are, wherever each of us is, we're in the right place to take our next step. And you could say even the perfect place. Because where you are is what you have created so far. And then what you intend and the direction that you choose to go in is really going to help to form the future that you're going into. So I think it always, even if you're very busy, it's always the right time to start. So when I was an architect, I just started thinking, well, what do I want to do with my time? How can I incorporate more of the things that really bring me joy within my heart into my life? So I was busy with being in that profession, but I still started incorporating other things. And it was interesting because one of the things that is very dear to me is artistic expression. I'm very artistic. And that's a little picture I did of hearts there. And I had been, at that time, I was close to being 40 years old. And I had been putting off doing artwork for years. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe next year I'll have more time. Maybe next year I'll have more time. Maybe next year I'll have more time. And then I decided this is the time. If I don't do it now, how can I just keep saying I'm going to start living next year? So the thing that was very interesting to me about it is when I decided that I was going to do it, it was like the time showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think life is like that. Our intention is more powerful than we realize. And we can also, part of this is that we can intend for it to be a joyful journey. There was I solicited some questions on my Facebook page earlier, and one person actually commented with a comment rather than a question, saying that she had written books on life purpose and a variety of things, and then said, and it's very difficult to realize your purpose. Well, I don't see it at all that way. It's like it's your greatest joy. And another part of it is it doesn't have to be earth-shattering, like, oh, I'm going to do this important thing, for the world. It can be, well, I want to have a restaurant and make people feel joyful and have time, have a place where they can go and have a break from all of the tensions in their lives. Or I want to be an artist. Someone might be an artist, and I want to create artwork that will trigger people's souls, that will invite people to expand and grow, or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be like I'm going to change the world and
Yeah, or and it
put
can
up here.
and it can be that you may be a changing the world, kind of person too. That's one possibility, but it doesn't have to be that way at all.
Right. Well, it's contributing your unique gifts to the world, and
Right.
in a way that you feel makes a difference. That is not just for your own selfish kind of desires. So I think that would be the way I distinguish it. And it is a journey.
It
It's
is.
not, it's not something, well, I'm going to figure it out and then I'm going to do it. It really is, it evolves as you evolve.
Mm-hmm.
And probably the most challenging part is knowing oneself, because it really requires a lot of, I guess, tenacity to, in some cases, well, in my case, it did, tenacity to overcome the objections that I received from people like my family. I was actually disowned by my family. For, you'd think there could be a worse person than me. Like, what's this all about? But I would talk to my father on the phone and say, well, we're going to teach a hypnotherapy class tonight. And he would say, well, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard, not just, nothing polite about it. And so part of my journey was building up the strength that I could talk back and say, well, that's not a very nice thing to say, and I don't appreciate that. And that was a big step for me, actually, when I did that. I'll never forget it. And the interesting thing, actually, and that just as the story goes, is when I did that, and he was a pretty belligerent and mean person at times, when I did that, when I finally said that to him, he cowered. And we kind of ended the conversation, and I called him back a couple weeks later, and he said in a very meek voice, I thought you were mad at me. And I don't remember him ever speaking to me that way before, until I claimed my own power.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of it. It really is a place where the path narrows and you have to be willing to just stand up for what you believe
Right.
is right.
And maybe that's what that lady who made the comment about being difficult. Difficult is probably, that sounds like a very struggling, heavy, negative experience, and you'll have challenges.
That's one way. Yeah, that's one way to interpret it.
Yeah, it's challenges at times and becoming stronger and more resilient because you have a motivation. You know, it's difficult going to work when it doesn't mean much and it's just a paycheck, and or it's just on automatic. I mean, that can be kind of challenging in itself, just because you're just not getting much out of it, and your life is just sort of living on the surface. I mean, it just to dig down to do something motivational with your skills and talents, like we said, and yeah, you're probably going to meet some rejection and criticism. Okay, yeah, but you'll probably meet that anyways. Why not do it for your purpose to make a difference?
Yeah. So
okay.
You want to go to the next question?
Let's go to the next question. Question number 3 out of perhaps 7 or 7 plus. And then what most people miss, stay around to the end, what most people miss on their life purpose. Question number 3.
How do I know if I'm telling myself what I think I should do, that's a should do, or if the universe is telling me what I should? Right.
Well, something that we focus on is what we call soul centering, and we teach. It's having a relationship with your soul, which everyone has more or less, but it's a conscious way. And people know their soul like on a sunset or a poignant moment or something you remember that stands out in your lifetime. Your soul was present. However, you don't have to have those kind of intense moments, as wonderful as they are, to cultivate this relationship. And we have a little simple visualization where you breathe into your heart and relax your body and open up your heart to your soul and to the universe, and just kind of breathing in and slowing down yourself for a moment. Maybe you can sense that. And as you get a sense of that and practice that, and Jane and I did that for years, so it became second nature to us, you know what your soul is, you know what it's telling you, as opposed to what, quote, you think, your mental chatter, or what people have told you, or what you've read, or what other people say you should be doing. And sometimes people may tell you what your soul's doing. I mean, it may be a confirmation there too. Let me share a story of one of our students, Clara, who took our holistic coaching and healing program, which focuses, among other things, on life purpose. She started off in life, she was always athletic and really liked sports. Her father wanted her to be an athlete, wanted her probably, I think, to be a male athlete, and sort of. And so it was a confusing.
That was a tough one.
So sometimes our parents want what we want, and sometimes they oppose it. But this was an enmeshing, and she became a physical education teacher, a college teacher, and still was an athlete. And a lot of it was, until she was taking her course, wanting to do it not only because she liked it, but to please her father, to get her father's approval, even though she's an adult. And like Jane said, even though, quote, you're an adult, there's a child part until it matures, i.e. until you parent yourself. Wow, Philip, I get as angry as hell when this happens. I was a school teacher years ago. Someone said something and I just barked at them. Who was that? That was an angry teenager. That was out of control. That was in charge. I wasn't in charge. My soul wasn't in charge. My spiritual adult wasn't in charge. Just that wounded part. And we all have those until we become more merged with our soul, which is what we teach and train you and what we're introducing to you today a little bit more. So with Clara, the more she became acquainted and intimate with her soul through our teachings and our program, she became stronger and clearer, and she actually even won a golfing tournament, which she had always wanted to do, not because she didn't have the skills, because she did prior, because she was a very gifted athlete, but because she didn't have the mindset. You can imagine with your father in there telling you, to make good, how that can be really distracting to that golf putt. Anyway, so she won the tournament, and the happy ending, then she's still a college teacher, but she's also doing more of her own coaching and developing programs since she took ours. So that's one example of kind of knowing the difference. If you don't know the difference, what that's telling us is that you want to get more in touch with your soul, so you'll know the difference, just like, night and day, you know the difference.
Right. And really, that state of connectedness in the heart is you can recognize it because you don't feel any resistance. You feel that kind of love. You feel connected to everyone and everything. And that it's in that place, it's your most resourceful state for making any kind of decision, really, or for understanding things at a deeper level.
Right. So we go on to question number 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Question number 4. How does one get clarity on one's life purpose when one feels just knows what they're not here to do just one thing, or rather only one, or even a few career paths or work jobs? In other words, people say, gee whiz, I have a bunch of interests. What am I supposed to do? How do I narrow it down? Jane?
Right, right. And it is, I wouldn't say that you have to fit it into a category like, I have this life purpose, period. It really is where does the joy spring from your heart? So it might be, well, for me as an example, Philip and I have Awakenings Institute, our nonprofit organization, which really is focused on creating creating a more loving world. But I also enjoy doing artwork. So I would say that's part of my purpose too. And when I can share that with people, that's joyful for me and I feel it's meaningful too. So I think it doesn't have to just be one thing. And it can change. It can shift. We also, Philip and I write books. So it's not like we just teach, we also write books. They're related to also to the work that we do, obviously, directly. But it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be formatory about it. In fact, you can decide, what the box looks like that it goes in. There's a lot of space in there for however you want to create it. It's your
Right.
world and your life.
It's not either, all of this is not either or thinking, which is a higher level of thinking, which we teach people into thinking with their higher level of mental and emotional awareness. So it's not like I'm either living my purpose or I'm not. I'm either doing this one thing, which is my purpose, or I'm off track and I'm not doing it. Again, your soul would tell you and guide you and navigate you if you're off track. You'll feel that. But it's more subtle, it's more spontaneous, it's more transformational, it's emerging, it's changing, it's adapting, it's reinventing, it's evolving.
Mm-hmm.
Fluid,
And it
dynamic.
makes me feel like I want to be alive because of this. Why is it you want to be alive? Other than just survival, because instinctively the body doesn't want to die. But on a higher level, I think anybody who's here would be here because there's something else going on here. So what is it? What is it that makes your heart sing? And it might be singing too. There might be singing in there. There could be all kinds of different things in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to you.
And that takes us to our next question. Stay tuned here and don't remember the end things that you people miss on life purpose, and also how to go further. That's coming up.
So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So here we go. Question number 5.
I'm 59, and after a long career doing what I felt was my calling, and this is a good, interesting one, I find myself having to decide on another career. I'm open to new possibilities, looking forward to doing something else that I love for the next 20 plus years. Do we get to have a second calling, a second vocation at midlife, and how do we choose again? And this is interesting too. Do I have a life purpose now at age 70?
So two related.
Those are two people.
Two related. Yeah, those are 2 questions. We tried to put these all together in a organized fashion. So first of all, let me just say about like 2 careers. Let me just say someone famous just to make the point. Bill Gates, someone we all know. He was, of course, a software innovator and developed the Microsoft company, as we probably all know. But now, as we probably know too, he's turned a philanthropist and a humanitarian. So you might say that's different stages. One thing led to the next in his career and his purpose. Now, you're thinking, well, gee whiz, I'm not on the world stage like Bill Gates. Very few people are. However, that doesn't diminish what you're here to do and your purpose. Whatever your part is, that's the part you're here to play. If you're Rosencrantz and Guildenstern in the background, or if you're Hamlet, you're still in the play, and you have your own voice, your own contribution, your own notes that only you can do, because face it, you have your experience, skills that are uniquely yours. So the world needs you. Yes, you. We're talking about you. And part of that is just knowing yourself and being true to yourself, which is that's one of the things people miss. We're gonna come back to that point, knowing yourself and being true to yourself, in a moment. And I'm gonna answer the second part of, do I have a life purpose now at age 70? But did you want to add anything to that first part, Jane?
Yes, I think it's hard to know from the questioner exactly what was going on, but for me, like being an architect, it was a stage in my life. I wouldn't say that it was, and it was a career, but it wasn't my purpose. It was something that led me to my purpose in a seems like a very indirect way, but it's interesting. I think in life, Philip and I both, being in our, you could say, second career, I think that both of us brought a lot from our earlier life that has benefited us with what we're doing now.
Right.
With the obvious example being that Philip was a teacher and now we're teaching. So that was a great help for me that he was a teacher, so that I could learn from him in that area. And I think as an architect, I learned a lot of organizational skills and management skills that I use now in not in the same way that I did then, but I think that they've really served me, and just understanding a lot about working with people. So it may be that what happens, and I think Philip suggested this earlier, that what happens earlier in one's life may not actually be your life purpose. It might just be preparation for getting to that point.
Right. So here's the good news. Here's the key, as Jane was saying. Whatever you've done, if you're going to go the full route to your life purpose, can be used. I went to UCLA Film School many years ago. I'm not in Hollywood, but I started using my videos actually when I was an educator, school teacher. I was doing educational videos, which I enjoyed, and it was fulfilling, but instead of being sort of random series of events and experiences, maybe enjoyable, when they tie to your purpose, remember that pieces of the puzzle metaphor, they become pieces of the puzzle. Now I use video, I create videos for our website and our coaching and healing business. So, and just the skills about how to create a video technically in the video and the audio, and how to prepare it and organize, all of that is useful on different levels, more useful now.
Yeah.
And so now the second part of that question, and do I have a life purpose now at age 70? That's an interesting thing to think of. At one point we thought that really seems old until you're almost 70 like we are, and it doesn't seem very old. It just depends, of course, for some people it might be. So it's all about a context of your age. Your context, your circumstances, and the changes you do. Your purpose may look different at 30 than at 70 because you're in a different place. But you can use all your life experiences to contribute. Use that life purpose formula, your skills and talents, to make the world a better place. Whatever your age is, you can still use that. If someone said, hey, you got 1 year to live, then your purpose is 1 year or 1 month. You'll still be using your skills and talents to make the best of your life. Maybe you have 50 more years left or 70 more years left, wherever you are in the time frame there. In a way, it's still the same, although the context and circumstances change.
Right. And it really is a matter of whether you feel you have it in your heart to create something or not. Some people may, at a certain point in life, feel like their life is complete. And that's fine too. We all reach that point, obviously. So it just is, it's really individual, but there is no limit. If you have life in you and you feel like you have something you want to contribute, whatever your age, then that's a wonderful thing.
So that will take us to question number 6 of 7. Do you choose your destiny, Jane, your path? Is that true, or is there a predestined calling in each individual?
Well, my belief in this area is that we come into a life for a reason, and could say there may be a general plan. At the same time, I think that we are, what we're learning is that we are creators of our lives and that we have choices. So I wouldn't say like we're predestined to do one particular thing. I think there can be a lot of things that are kind of pre-designed. Like I feel that it was part of, maybe you would say, our destiny or our path for Philip and me to be together. And I think that it has been of benefit to both of us. And I think that that was something that was part of the design before we were born. But that doesn't mean that it would have to happen. I think that we still have free will and we have choices that we can make. So you could say, in a way, both are true, that you can choose, and also there are things that are kind of almost set up to to be introduced to you. In the same way, also, I feel like for the people generally who come to us for our courses and who become our friends, like one of our former students and wonderful friend Sharon is on the call right now, and I think that that was meant to be, that we met each other. That's my belief, and I think that that's true with many other people who are in our courses, and generally that they come for a reason that is kind of designed into the plan.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. So that's going to take us to the final question before we go into what people miss about life purpose and how to go further. Last question here. And if anyone in the audience has a question, please submit it too, additional to what we've received here.
Yeah, I've been watching and haven't seen any yet.
Okay.
So how can we best be helpful and joyful where we are, even if it's not what we're meant to do, being in a draining career and nearing retirement?
Okay. So let's see if we can kind of extract that. So the first part is, if you are in, quote, a draining, stressful career job, be grateful perhaps that you are working. You know, if you are appreciating the income and the good parts of the job, there's probably something, if you can open your mind to it and your heart to it, that is useful. Certainly the stability, then maybe you're being of service. And then on the other side of it, in the question, it sort of has this fatalistic thing that, you know, it's like that, you know, do I need to be financially stable before I can get started with my career? The question we addressed earlier. Depending on how close you are to your retirement, well, most people start their, quote, life purpose, which may or may not be a job, career, business, may or may not. And they started in small steps and strides, like Jane and I did when we were, first of all, training and taking trainings like the trainings we now offer, the coaching and healing program, and starting to work with people for free at first and then for paid. And then we started doing trainings. And this was all on the side while I was an educator full-time and Jane was an architect. So most people start kind of slowly on the side anyway. So it's, again, remember we talked about either or, formatory, limited, shallower thinking. So you want to broaden your thinking, saying, hey, I can do both. And maybe I don't have to wait till retirement. You know, if the retirement's coming soon enough, yeah, it may be worth appreciating the job, getting the most out of it while you're doing things on the side as your avocation, which may become your vocation full time at sooner or later. Jane, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, that made me think of a woman who I did a session with a little while back, who was working in a school actually, and was very unhappy in her job there, working with people who were very much unlike her and feeling uncomfortable and
Mm-hmm.
unappreciated and just really unhappy and wanting to, actually, she and her husband wanted to move from where they lived in Nevada to Oregon. And so she was wanting me to help her with what was going on and how she could make that move, because it seemed to, like, for her, like, everything they tried, nothing was working. And this brings up the healing element too. I did some work with her on the block that she had, the discomfort being in her current occupation. And she got to the point, actually, at the end, by the end of the session, where she was actually very comfortable, and she had gained a new appreciation for the people who were there and was looking forward to connecting with them in a different way. And then less than a week later, um, with her going with a new kind of perspective on what she was doing, her employer came to her and moved her to a different actual job. This didn't get her to Oregon. It's just one stage in the journey, but it was moved her to a different job where the people were just like wonderful people, much more like her, and the job was just perfect, and it was like this wonderful thing. And so this is another thing where we're feeling like we're encountering a lot of hostility or negativity, or just feeling like we're blocked internally. That it's very important to clear those, because that clears the path. It's like if you're on a path, you might be up against a brick wall, or you might find yourself on a detour or whatever it is, and you need to be in your best place to then take the next positive steps on the journey. And she was just completely amazed that that happened. And I can remember another fellow Philip worked with a while back, who he was in an occupation very unhappy with his job, and Philip did some work with him for seeing a brighter future, and within 2 weeks he was offered a job that paid 50% more or something that was much better. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a part of it too.
It can happen. It can
Right.
happen for you.
Yeah. So and it is, I think, I also personally feel that wherever we are, we're there for a reason. So when I was an architect, and I was still working in architecture, and we were transitioning, I tried to have a positive perspective on it. And if nothing else, I felt I could be a kind of a bright light in kind of a hostile place. That,
Right.
and society needs that.
They do.
Those of us who have the capacity to be more loving and kind, um, society needs us. If we were all in one place and then all of the hostile people were together without anybody kind of offering another alternative, that wouldn't be as effective. So
Right.
we need, sometimes we might be doing that as just part of what we're doing to contribute to a better world.
And guess what? We need support too. We, as the holistic minded, more heart centered people, need to support each other and find areas of support, because that's where we can get a little bit defeated and overwhelmed when isolated, because we need to bond together, to feel strong and to be cheered up and supported when challenges come and when we need some answers and more input, positive input. So that as we're getting closer to the end, where there's something that people miss, Jane and we're talking about, life purpose. A lot of this maybe made a lot of sense to you. Maybe some of it was a little bit of a review. Maybe some of it was new. Maybe it's putting
Right.
the pieces together. But there's something really big that people miss that they actually need to be trained in to learn. It's like something, it's like you can't just meditate on it and figure it out. You actually need to get help and input to understand this. I mean, meditating and soul centering is certainly a good and vital too. Jane, you want to go further on what people miss?
Yeah, and it is, as an overview, we would say it is a deep understanding of what makes people tick. And starting with ourselves, like for us to really be able to function optimally, you could say, to realize our full potential, we have to understand what our resources are. And it also is helpful if we can approach other people in the same way, where we can understand more about what makes them the most resourceful and help them to be their personal best. That's together, that's how we can create a better world. So it's not, it doesn't, as Philip suggested, it doesn't just happen automatically by watching people, walking down the street or something. And we encountered early in actually our relationship, we encountered a little known system that we teach in our holistic coaching and healing program that identifies the kinds of characteristics that people have to really think about to understand what it is for them, what they are for them. And when they do, I think that it offers new opportunities, because in some cases these characteristics can be blocking people from being their personal best. And I'll give some examples here in a minute. Did you want to share more, Philip, about the overview before I go into a little?
Right. So I liken it to, if you didn't know what a man or a woman was, would you be lacking if you were talking to a woman and you didn't know what the idea of a man or woman is? I mean, you might notice that she's somehow different from you if you're a man, or similar, but just all we know about men and women, not to say that we know everything, but that gives us a lot of knowledge, a lot of awareness right off the bat, right from the beginning. So what Jane is saying, these overleafs of the soul, as they're sometimes called, the different roles people have, the roles as a server or a priest or an artisan or a warrior or a scholar, and there are others. So there's different fundamental roles, just like you're a man or a woman, of who you are. And it's not better or worse than the next person. And once you know that, then hey, that's who I am. That's kind of a given. That's part of your talents and gifts. Remember, we talked about that for your life purpose. So if you're more of a leader, a kind of a king leader type, or you're more of an artisan like a Jane, if you're creative, you're going to naturally be in the creative things. If you're more of a server type, maybe you want to find areas to serve people. You're natural. You're really good at that. And that doesn't mean you're one-dimensional and you can't lead if you're a server, or you can't be creative if you're a researcher, or so forth, whatever. But it's fundamentally who you are. And same thing with goals and the way you approach them. If you're passionate about things more naturally, that's not better or worse than being more pragmatic. You might be much more practical if you're a pragmatic approach person than a passionate person, but each has their advantages. And you're not just limited to one thing either.
Right. So what Philip was talking about with what he called roles is, we all have a primary way of being. Like as Philip mentioned, I'm very artistic, and some people it's a more expressive way of being, or some people are much more scholarly, like it's natural, they're natural researchers, or some people are more like leaders, and some people are more like followers. And then there are people who thrive on being of service to other people. So for each of us, whatever it is, what we want to do is optimize that. And then similarly, another one is, what is your approach to life? Like I'm very cautious in my approach to life. Some people, Philip is more passionate. And it's not, actually, I'm probably more passionate and less cautious than I used to be, but I still am pretty deliberate in the way that I approach things. Some people might actually, according to this system, 50% of the population, their approach is observation. And I used to wonder, what are all these people doing sitting around in cafes? How do they have time? They're watching, just watching things happening, or they're going to sporting events. They're more observing action than being part of the action. And another one is, what is your mental perspective? So maybe some people are more skeptical by nature. Some people are more idealistic or pragmatic. And if you can understand really what it is for you, that can be of great value.
Right. It's objective data,
Right, right.
evidence
Yeah,
based.
along with that, so for instance, I'm a pragmatist, an architect, very pragmatic. And you could say that the positive part about that is that being practical, you can create a lot of things. So it's very beneficial actually in our work that I have. In addition to having this lofty spiritual kind of a perspective, we have we're pragmatic and we can bring it down to earth. But on the negative side, sometimes people who are very pragmatic can become dogmatic. Like, you have to do it this way. This is the best way.
Too many
And,
rules and
and this is maybe in their thinking, this is the only way. So I think for ourselves, and also just for appreciating the fullness of humanity and the uniquely beautiful aspects of each person, if we can start to understand more how the diversity of who we are benefits us as a society, so we can we're filling all these different roles in society. I think that that's a really beautiful thing. And understanding also that just because you, for instance, approach things in a certain way doesn't mean that that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, if you're more of a priest type, sort of trying to uplift people by nature, that doesn't mean other people are going to be that way at all, and there's something wrong if they're not, and you can get too zealous of being a a priestly kind of uplifter person. And some people are just more, say, scholarly or like the research, they're not into that at all. It doesn't mean they don't have that element, but that's just not their thing, not who they are. That's not their skills and gifts. And you can have combinations of these. Another thing we just want to briefly, as we're kind of giving you a taste of this, and this is what we teach in our coach and healing program, a whole kind of training on this, among other things, to get objective sense of who you are, is that there's certain defense or fear patterns everyone has. Now, probably most people.
We don't want to talk about that.
Hey, wait. Did you say fear? No. Did you say fear pattern? No, I don't have any fear patterns. Yes, and so after a while you get used to it. And go, oh, there's my fear pattern. There's that kick me sign on my back. Why are people kicking me? Everyone sees it except you, right? Until you start to become aware of yourself, which is what people are missing. This self knowledge, this more objective data. And the fears might be fears of not being as good as others, kind of putting yourself down, or fear of being criticized, or thinking you're better than others, fear of being impatient, missing out, fear of being a victim, like people don't appreciate you, fear of stubbornness, fear of change, fear of not having enough, or greedy things. So there's a bunch of these, and when you're in those, often by identification and something that triggers you quite unconsciously, then the parts of who you are go into the negative parts. Like if Jane says, if you're a pragmatist, you become overly pragmatic. If you're cautious, you become overly cautious. If you're passionate, you become overly passionate. So it tilts you. So all these things, and I know there's a lot of moving parts there, and it's nothing you can understand in one webinar here, but it gives you a taste of that. Something we suggest you learn that from us or someone to get a more objective sense of who you are, and a lot of things become apparent to help yourself and other people very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the whole idea of knowing oneself is such an important one. And in relation to purpose, that might be a more challenging part of it, is really mastering oneself than just understanding what your purpose is. Like understanding we want to be part of helping to create a more loving world, and we're doing it. We're teaching, actually we teach our programs because then we can kind of share the wealth. We can help more people to open to a more loving world, and they go out and help to create a more loving world, and then those people create a loving world. It's kind of like it radiates out and attracts more and more people as you go along.
Right.
And each person in their own way. Like Sharon who's on the call, she's very much interested in kindness, and she's part of some groups that have that as a mission. So it can take a lot of different forms, whatever, again, whatever feels right in your heart.
Right. Right. And so if you want to go further with life purpose, especially in the context of coach and healing, our coach and healing online certification training starts October 8th, the next part here. If you're listening currently, it occurs at different times during the year, but there's a, let me put a URL on the screen and I'll tell you a little bit about it. It might be something you're interested in or want to share it with someone else. tinyurl.com/HOL coach. There's a URL there. That's a shortened URL, tinyurl.com/HOL coach. So we meet live on a Zoom webinar a couple times a week for about 90 minutes. You get to practice these techniques, the coaching and healing. And the idea is to get closer with your soul and go through these spiritual stages, because it's a year program. It is a longer program, a deeper program. It's for people who really want to go deep into spiritual growth and maybe to enhance or build a business or just help them in their career or calling in any ways. People take it who are not only in the health field or conventional or alternative health or human resources. It could be business people, lawyers, educators take it, real estate people, people from all walks of life, because we've been offering it for 25 years, who want to go deeper, who want to make a bigger difference. So this might be a program you're interested in, and you can go to the website here, and there's a way to contact us, and we can discuss if it's right for you. And there's a lot of benefits to it. And Jane, do you want to add a little bit to that?
Well, from my own perspective, having learned all of these different things over the years, I feel that I can't imagine being without all of these tools, even if it's just for myself. I think that we've probably saved thousands of dollars on medical bills and and just really created a much more joyful and fulfilling life than we would have if we didn't know everything that we've learned and now teach. So
right.
I just encourage people, and again, it's what's in your heart. You know, if you feel that desire in your heart to pursue something like this, I think that you'll get a lot out of this training.
Yeah, contact us, go to the website. Some of the things we're teaching in the next course starting October 8th at this point is things like the spiritual stages we discussed just briefly on this call, life purpose. There's major life themes we go through at different times of our life. We talked about the overleaps of the soul, the Michael teachings, obstacles and opportunities on the spiritual path, common problems and solutions that people face, polarities, balancing polarities like masculine, feminine, and spiritual, earthly. Those are hugely important things to be aware of and know how to balance, how to teach classes, and much more. That's just a little sampler there. In fact, maybe Sharon, who's on the call, she has taken our training. Would you mind talking about it, Sharon? Would that be okay?
She's muted, Philip.
Okay,
Oh,
there you go.
There you
go. Oh, put me on the spot, Philip.
Sorry about this, Sharon.
Thank you. This training has made such a huge difference in my life. When I first started the training, I was really actually laid pretty low with fibromyalgia. I was very overweight as well, and the tools that I was given in this training, I now have my fibromyalgia well in hand. I'm certainly functional, and I've lost over 100 pounds. It just melted away, and I've kept it off for 10 years.
Wow.
So,
that's beautiful.
Oh my gosh, learn from these wonderful mentors of mine. They are just so willing to share their knowledge. Just soak it up.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. And you get the support of not only people like Sharon, and people take it, as I said, from all walks of life, all ages, actually all geographical places because of the internet. People take it from New Zealand and Australia, and there's a lady from Trinidad who's in our current enrollment, and all over, and of course, many people from the United States and Canada too. So it's a great way to meet people, to have personal and professional relationships, the support. You get a lot of personal growth. You learn the techniques and you learn them on yourself, so you grow and clear and get that intimacy with your soul. Jane, do you want to add anything else? We're getting close to closing here.
Well, with all the years that we've taught it, I think one of the things that impresses me is that I never get bored with the coaching and healing. I think that there's always more to explore. There's so much depth to, the human beings, and it just amazes me. We actually, our course has evolved a lot over the years, and I used to think, well, what's wrong with us? We have to keep changing our program, and other people have the same old program year after year. Why is it that, what are we missing? And then I heard something, this was probably on the internet, where a person was saying, well, if what you're teaching isn't evolving, that means that you're not evolving. And so I thought, oh, well, that's a much better way to look at it.
What a relief.
Right, because actually I can think of one program in particular, of actually a well-known in our state, in California, well-known trainer in hypnotherapy. I heard him one time saying how bored he was with his work. And it really, I thought, well, that's odd. And that was one of those programs that had been the same year after year after year for many years. And it was not evolving. So our program is evolving. We're all evolving with it. And it's just, well, still to me, the most exciting thing ever.
Yeah, some people take the whole program more than one time because of how profound it is. And you'll learn not only holistic hypnotherapy, holistic EFT, spiritual kinesiology, a modality we developed, healing from the soul, a lot of coaching techniques, and much, much more. And it begins at this point, October 8th, and the URL, tinyurl.com/HOL-coach. Take a look at it. There's a way to contact us, and we can talk about if it's a good fit for you. It does begin soon. So it's been great being with you. Philip and Jane Montrose here. Jane, any parting comments?
Just follow your heart, I guess. That's the most important thing. Open your heart and follow your heart.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.